Superman's sacrifice against Doomsday, Superman's death in Batman or World. Superman, Dawn of Justice represents one of the most emotionally devastating moments in DC movie history because we watch the Man of Steel, who seemed truly invincible throughout Man of Steel, sacrifice himself to save a world that feared and doubted him, driving a Kryptonian bone spear through Doomsday while the creature simultaneously impales him. After Lex Luthor creates Doomsday using General Zod's corpse and forbidden Kryptonian genetic engineering, Batman and Wonder Woman prove unable to stop the creature despite their combined efforts, and Superman realizes he must make the ultimate sacrifice, even though handling the kryptonite spear weakens him significantly and burns his hands. Superman drives the spear through Doomsday's chest with all his remaining strength, but Doomsday's bone protrusion pierces Superman's chest simultaneously, and both God and monster die together in a moment mirroring the famous Death of Superman comic storyline. The scene where Lois cradles Superman's lifeless body while crying is gut-wrenching, and when Batman and Wonder Woman realize this alien they feared was more human than any of them because he gave everything to protect a world that never fully accepted him, it crystallizes the tragedy of Superman's DCEU existence, and the funeral scene shows two services, one for Clark in Smallville with Martha and Lois grieving privately, and one for Superman in Metropolis where the world finally recognizes what they've lost, making his death both physically painful from the impalement and emotionally devastating from the waste of such pure heroism. By the way, if you like DC movie content like this, I would really appreciate it if you could subscribe. Thank you very much. The Joker's fall. The Joker's death in Tim Burton's Batman creates one of the most darkly satisfying yet strangely unsettling endings in superhero cinema, because we watch Jack Nicholson's clown Prince of Crime fall to his death from Gotham Cathedral's bell tower while laughing maniacally, having just murdered Bruce Wayne's parents in flashback and terrorized Gotham with his Smilex toxin. Yet even in death, he seems to win by forcing Batman to confront the fact that he created his greatest enemy by causing the accident that transformed Jack Napier into the Joker. The climactic confrontation takes place high above Gotham after the Joker kidnaps Vicky Vale and takes her to the cathedral, and when Batman reaches the top, the Joker tries to escape via helicopter while holding Vicky hostage, and Batman uses his grappling hook to tether the Joker to a stone gargoyle, creating a weight that prevents the helicopter from lifting away. The Joker pulls himself, hand over hand, along the grappling line, trying to cut it, and when he looks down and sees how high up he is, for just a moment the manic smile falters, and we see genuine fear. But then his grin returns because, even if he dies, he's won by proving Gotham's savior is just as responsible for the city's chaos as its criminals. The gargoyle breaks free under the Joker's weight, and he plummets hundreds of feet to the stone plaza below, his body hitting with a sickening impact. And when police examine the corpse, they find the Joker still grinning even in death, with a grotesque laugh box in his pocket that activates and fills the air with mechanical laughter, suggesting even mortality can't stop the Joker's joke. General Zod's neck snap. General Zod's death in Man of Steel is excruciating, both physically and emotionally, because we watch Superman, the hero who represents hope and refuses to kill, forced into a position where he must either snap his fellow Kryptonian's neck or allow Zod to incinerate a family of innocent humans with his heat vision. And the moment Clark breaks Zod's neck and the light fades from the General's eyes, Superman screams in anguish because he's just committed the act he swore never to do and killed the last connection to his home planet. After Superman destroys Zod's world engine and ruins his plan to terraform Earth into a new Krypton, Zod becomes suicidal in his rage, telling Superman he has nothing left to live for and will never stop until either he's dead or every human on Earth is killed, transforming their fight from battle into an execution that Zod is forcing Superman to carry out. When Zod falls to his knees in Metropolis's ruined train station and uses his heat vision to threaten a cowering family, Superman wraps his arms around Zod's head, trying to redirect the deadly beams, but Zod deliberately moves his head to track the family, making it clear the only way to stop him is to kill him. And the camera focuses on Superman's face as he realizes with dawning horror there's no other choice, that this is what Zod wants, to force Superman into becoming a killer and abandoning his principles. The physical act of snapping Zod's neck is brutal and unflinching, with the sound of vertebrae cracking echoing through the theater. And Michael Shannon's performance makes Zod's death almost triumphant in its tragedy, because the General has succeeded in forcing Superman to compromise his ideals, even though it cost Zod his own life. And when Superman cradles Zod's body and screams in grief and rage, Henry Cavill makes us feel the weight of what this act means for Clark's future as a hero. Murray Franklin's on-air execution. Murray Franklin's death in Joker is shocking and painful, not just because of the graphic violence of watching Robert De Niro's talk show host get shot in the face on live television, but because the murder represents the complete transformation of Arthur Fleck from a mentally ill victim of society's neglect into the Joker, a nihilistic killer who murders the man he once idolized in front of millions of viewers. Throughout Joker, Arthur has fantasized about appearing on Murray Franklin's show, imagining scenarios where Murray treats him like a son and validates his existence. But the reality of Murray's show is far different, as Murray broadcasts a clip of Arthur's failed stand-up performance and mocks him on national television, calling him Joker and turning Arthur's mental illness into a punchline. When Arthur is invited onto the show after becoming famous for the subway murders, he arrives in full Joker makeup and costume, no longer planning to commit suicide on air, but instead planning to make a statement by murdering Murray in front of the cameras. And what follows is one of the most tense scenes in the film, as Arthur toys with Murray, tells morbid jokes, confesses to the subway murders, and delivers a rant about how society abandons the mentally ill and the poor. The tension builds as Arthur tells Murray, "You're just like the rest of them," and delivers his final joke. What do you get when you cross a mentally ill loner with a society that abandons him and treats him like trash? I'll tell you what you get. You get what you fucking deserve. And shoots Murray directly in the face, the bullet impact shown in graphic detail as Murray's head snaps back and blood sprays across the set, while his co-host and the studio audience scream in terror, and Arthur then shoots Murray a second time before security tries to apprehend him. Rachel Dawes' explosion. Rachel Dawes' death in The Dark Knight is absolutely devastating, because it happens not through heroic sacrifice, but through the Joker's cruel manipulation, and we watch helplessly along with Batman as he races to save her, only to arrive moments too late, finding Harvey Dent's warehouse instead, because the Joker deliberately gave Batman the wrong addresses to maximize psychological torture. The Joker kidnaps both Rachel and Harvey, placing them in separate locations rigged with explosives, then tells Batman where they are, knowing Batman will choose to save Rachel while sending Gordon to save Dent. But the Joker switches the addresses so Batman's love for Rachel dooms her because his choice to save her actually sends him to Dent's location. Rachel and Harvey communicate via phone while tied up surrounded by gasoline barrels, and in their final moments, Rachel tells Harvey she loves him and agrees to marry him. And this confession happens as both believe they're about to die, but hope their friends will save at least one of them. Batman crashes through warehouse windows and frantically works to free the person he finds, but it's Harvey Dent, not Rachel. And just as Batman pulls Dent to safety, a spark ignites the gasoline leaked onto half of Dent's face, causing the horrific burns that will transform him into Two-Face. But the bigger tragedy is happening across town, where Gordon and his men arrive at Rachel's location mere seconds too late, and the building explodes in a massive fireball that incinerates Rachel before they can reach her. What makes Rachel's death uniquely painful is it's not heroic sacrifice or noble death in battle. It's simply murder, cruel and random and pointless, except as a tool to break Harvey Dent and prove the Joker's point that even the best people can be corrupted when they lose what they love most. And Rachel dies believing Batman chose to save Dent over her, never knowing Bruce tried desperately to reach her but was tricked. Rorschach's disintegration. Rorschach's death in Watchmen is one of the most emotionally and philosophically devastating moments in superhero cinema, because we watch Walter Kovacs, the one character who refused to compromise his principles even in the face of Armageddon, literally begged Dr. Manhattan to disintegrate him rather than stay silent about Adrian Veidt's mass murder of millions. And the moment Manhattan vaporizes him in the Antarctic snow represents the death of absolute morality in a world that demands pragmatic compromise. When Rorschach reaches Veidt's Antarctic base and discovers Ozymandias has already killed 15 million people by detonating energy reactors designed to look like Dr. Manhattan's attacks, creating a false threat that unites the world and prevents nuclear war, he faces an impossible choice between accepting this utilitarian genocide or exposing the truth and destroying the fragile peace. While Night Owl, Silk Spectre, and Dr. Manhattan agree to keep Veidt's secret because the ends justify the means, Rorschach cannot accept this compromise because his entire worldview is built on the principle that evil must be punished regardless of consequences, and the moment you compromise your principles is the moment you become complicit in evil. Rorschach walks out into the Antarctic wasteland intending to expose Veidt's scheme, and when Dr. Manhattan teleports in front of him to stop him, Rorschach removes his iconic ink blot mask with tears streaming down his face and screams, "Do it!" at Manhattan, essentially demanding his own execution because death with honor is preferable to living as part of a lie. The actual moment of death is visually stunning and horrifying as Manhattan reluctantly raises his hand, and Rorschach explodes in a burst of blue energy, his body instantly vaporized and scattered across the snow, leaving nothing but a bloodstain and the mask lying in the frost. And the camera holds on Night Owl's anguished scream as he watches his former partner choose death over compromise. Rick Flag's heart stab. Rick Flag's death in the Suicide Squad is absolutely devastating because we watch one of the few genuinely good people in the DC universe get stabbed through the heart by Peacemaker, a teammate he trusted, and the murder happens not because Flag is evil or a threat, but because he wants to expose the United States government's role in creating the alien starfish Starro, and Peacemaker has been ordered by Amanda Waller to ensure that evidence never reaches the public. Throughout the Suicide Squad, Joel Kinnaman's Flag has been portrayed as the moral compass of Task Force X, treating even the worst criminals on his team like friends and equals. And when Flag and the team infiltrate Jotunheim and discover that Project Starfish isn't a Corto-Maltesian weapon, but an American experiment that's been torturing an alien being for 30 years, Flag's moral clarity kicks in, and he decides the world needs to know the truth. Peacemaker reveals his true mission as Waller's failsafe to kill anyone who threatens to expose America's involvement. And what follows is one of the most brutal hand-to-hand fights in the DCEU as Flag and Peacemaker, both highly trained Special Forces operatives, beat each other savagely through the crumbling Jotunheim facility. The fight is vicious and personal, with both men landing devastating blows, smashing each other into walls and equipment. And Flag seems to be winning when he gets Peacemaker on the ground and grabs a shard of broken tile. But Peacemaker reverses the position and drives the ceramic shard deep into Flag's chest, piercing his heart, and we watch Flag's eyes widen in shock and pain as blood pours from the wound, and Flag's final words are delivered with a pained chuckle as he looks at Peacemaker and says, "Peacemaker, what a joke," calling out the absurdity of someone who claims to cherish peace, murdering a good man to protect government secrets. The comedian's defenestration. The comedian's murder at the beginning of Watchmen sets the entire plot in motion and stands as one of the most brutally realistic superhero deaths ever filmed, because we watch Edward Blake, a man who survived Vietnam and decades of violence as a government-sanctioned killer, get beaten savagely in his own apartment by Adrian Veidt before being thrown through his window and falling dozens of stories to splatter on the pavement below. The sequence begins with Blake alone drinking and watching television when someone knocks and attacks him the moment he opens the door. And what follows is not a choreographed superhero fight, but a savage beating, where Blake, despite being a trained soldier and experienced brawler, is overwhelmed by his attacker's speed and strength, and we watch him get punched repeatedly in the face, slammed into furniture, and beaten until he's bloody and disoriented. Blake manages to fight back briefly, landing some brutal hits and even pulling out a gun, but his attacker disarms him and continues the assault, and the camera doesn't shy away from showing the comedian's face swelling and bleeding as he desperately tries to defend himself. The fight destroys Blake's apartment as the two men crash through furniture and walls, and when Blake is finally beaten to the point where he can barely stand, his attacker grabs him and hurls him bodily through the window of his high-rise apartment, and the shot of Blake flying through the glass and tumbling through the air is filmed in slow motion, showing his bloodied face and shards of glass sparkling around him as he falls, and his body impacts the street with a wet, sickening crunch that the camera shows in unflinching detail, blood pooling beneath his corpse while his signature smiley face button rolls away and comes to rest stained with his blood. Bane's execution. Bane's death in The Dark Knight Rises is shockingly anticlimactic, considering his dominance throughout the film, because after establishing himself as the villain who broke the bat and held Gotham hostage with a nuclear weapon, he's suddenly shot point-blank in the chest by Catwoman with the Bat-Pod's cannon and killed instantly, demonstrating that even the most physically imposing villains can be eliminated in a second when they're not paying attention. Throughout The Dark Knight Rises, Bane is portrayed as an unstoppable force, a tactical genius and brutal fighter who snaps necks with ease, crushes windpipes with his bare hands, and beats Batman so thoroughly in their first encounter that he breaks Bruce's back and leaves him crippled in a prison pit on the other side of the world. Bane takes over Gotham by destroying the bridges and trapping the city, then reveals a fully armed nuclear bomb and creates a reign of terror, where he executes the wealthy and powerful in kangaroo courts while pretending to give the city back to the people, and his mask that administers anesthetic gas makes him nearly immune to pain, allowing him to absorb punishment that would cripple normal men. When Batman returns from the pit and confronts Bane in the climactic battle, their rematch is brutal. And this time, Batman has the advantage because he's learned to target Bane's mask, and after damaging it and causing Bane excruciating pain, Batman seems poised to win, until Miranda Tate reveals herself as Talia al Ghul and stabs Batman in the abdomen, and we discover that Bane wasn't the child who escaped from the prison pit, but rather Talia's protector who saved her and was mutilated in the process. Talia leaves to detonate the bomb while ordering Bane to finish off Batman, and as Bane stands over the wounded Dark Knight preparing to execute him with a shotgun, he delivers a final line about knowing what must happen. But before he can pull the trigger, Catwoman suddenly appears on the Bat-Pod and fires the cannon directly into Bane's chest, and the impact sends him flying backward and kills him instantly in a spray of blood and shattered mask components. The suddenness of Bane's death is jarring precisely because Tom Hardy's performance and the film's narrative have built him up as this unstoppable revolutionary leader and physical powerhouse, and to have him eliminated so quickly by a supporting character using Batman's own vehicle feels like a deliberate subversion of expectations, showing that in war even the strongest can be killed in an instant. Polka Dot Man crushed by Starro. Polka Dot Man's death in the Suicide Squad hits hard emotionally, despite being quick and brutal, because David Dastmalchian's Abner Krill spent the entire film trying to prove to himself and the ghost of his abusive mother that he could be a real superhero. And just as he's finally succeeding, loudly proclaiming, "I'm a superhero," While fighting Starro the Conqueror, the giant alien starfish stomps on him and crushes him into paste in an instant. Throughout the Suicide Squad, Polka Dot Man has been portrayed as deeply traumatized by his mother, who experimented on him and his siblings at STAR labs in an attempt to create superheroes, giving them powers but also killing some of them, and leaving Abner with severe PTSD, where he sees his mother's face on everyone around him. Despite his psychological issues, Abner proves himself genuinely heroic during the mission, using his powers effectively and developing genuine friendships with Ratcatcher, 2, and the rest of the team. And his confession that he doesn't like to kill people, but if he pretends they're his mom, it's easy, is both darkly funny and deeply sad. When Starro breaks free and begins destroying Corto Maltese, the squad returns to fight the kaiju starfish, even though Amanda Waller ordered them to leave, and Polka Dot Man is instrumental in the battle, throwing his explosive polka dots at Starro and actually managing to hurt the creature. And for the first time in his life, Abner feels like the superhero his mother wanted him to be, and his joyful exclamation shows he's finally found validation and purpose. So tell me, which of these deaths hit you the hardest? Did any of them make you genuinely uncomfortable or emotional? What DC movie death would you add to this list? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more DC content. Thank you for watching.